and welcome to the Wrestling Academy, a podcast all about wrestling history with no linear timeline or trackable syllabus. So if you're a lifelong fan, or if you're brand new, this is the podcast for you. My name is Samee Junio, your Homecoming King.
And I am your Headmaster Michael Classic, and this is Wrestling Academy Summer School. All summer long, we are going to be loosening our ties and letting down our hair and breaking down season 1 of WWE and MTV's reality competition Tough Enough, a show that aired in 2001.
2001. What a place in time that was.
What a different world. What a different time. And we've just been mainlining it for weeks.
It's been something.
It's been something, all right. And I would say these 2 episodes today are even more something than the episodes before. The somethingness has evolved, and I can't wait to figure out what that something is.
And we're going to evolve when we hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. And how will we all celebrate? I'll put Michael through a fucking table. So go to Wrestling Academy's YouTube page, youtube.com/Wrestling Academy Pod. Follow us there so we can put Michael through a freaking table.
I love how we're just right to business this week. It's like, look, we could dress it up. We could say whatever we want, but you just want to hurt me, dude. Much like every single mentor and producer on the show, Tough Enough, wants to do to the contestants. You know, they want to hurt those people, and you want to hurt me. And let's stop dancing around. Let's stop being artful. Let's just say what we want. Samee wants to do violence to me, but only if we get 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube or can get to us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Hurt me, please.
Hurt Michael, please.
Please, pretty please. I want to get hurt so bad. But Samee, even though it's summer school, the hunt for Ween Kid is still on. Ween Kid, the mysterious phantom lurking in the shadows of Royal Rumble 2008, making goofy faces in literally every single shot. The only thing we know about them is they're wearing a yellow t-shirt from the band Ween, and me and Samee are determined to find them. So if you have any tips or clues, check out our social pages where we have pin posts breaking it all down, or you can go to our website, www.wrestlingacademy.university. You can leave us a tip, or you can call our anonymous Ween Kid tip line. That number is 708-669-4512. Ween Kid is out there, and we will not rest until we find them. We are coming for you. Even though it's the summer, Ween Kid, you're not off the hook.
We will not stop until we get that Ween.
But Samee.
Yeah.
Samee.
Yeah.
Samee.
Yes.
All that stuff, that's the future. What are we talking about today?
Today, we are breaking down Tough Enough's episodes 3 and 4. Episode 3 is titled The Rules of the Game, and episode 4 is titled The Billionaire Princess. And after watching these episodes, Michael, do you have any alternative titles for episode 3 in mind?
The first one that pops to my mind is Send Chris to Jail.
Don't drown anyone on TV.
I think the episode 3 should be titled, Get Chris the fuck out of the house. This guy's crazy. What about you, Samee?
Well, we have a big moment in episode 3, and so my alternative title is The Balls of the Moose.
The Balls of the Moose. That might be the title of this episode today.
Oh, hell yeah. But before we get on to the recap of episodes 3 and 4, let me break down 1 and 2 for you. After a grueling audition process, WWE and MTV whittled down 400 wrestling hopefuls down to 13 contestants. That lucky 13 will live in a house together, go through intense training every day, and at the end of 9 weeks, we will find out who is tough enough. Each week, a contestant will be eliminated until one man and one woman wins the show, both walking away with a WWE contract. After the first 2 episodes, we have started to get a feel of some of the contestants, except Taylor, for some reason.
Yeah, our hunt to see Taylor do anything continues. I would say she has 2 lines, 1 in each episode. So
That's true.
Our Taylor sightings have grown exponentially since the first 2 episodes.
True. So we have Bad Boy Daryl, a 6'7" former college football player who is literally kicking rocks at the end of episode 2. We have stunt woman Victoria, who continues to smash her head doing the very basic flat back bumps, and ladies man Maven, whose charismatic dark passenger told him to wink at Miss Jackie during his audition. We also get familiar with the coaches of the season: strict but caring Al Snow, Miss Jackie, Tori, Big, and the needlessly intense Taz. Taz's surprise, read poorly planned, mud wrestling challenge on the contestants' day off led to tall Paulina and wife guy Jason with knee injuries.
As soon as they got done mud wrestling, you could tell morale drops in the house. People are bummed. So
yeah,
we are marching into our second week of training at the Tough Enough house, and I'd say morale's at an all-time low. That's just how I feel. How do you feel, Samee?
I agree. I think anytime the contestants are shown walking away from a experience with Taz, they all want to kill themselves, and they're all feeling like they're not tough enough because Taz goes a little too hard.
Goes way too hard. And
yeah.
I'm really excited to get into this week's episode, Samee, because I think this episode, episode 3, is one of the most talked about Tough Enough episodes, specifically because of who the special guest cameo is and what he says and does to a room full of trainees. It's great. So I was very excited to get into this and finally experience it. And I guess quick impressions. Did you have any idea that this was a very infamous Tough Enough episode when you started to watch, or were you immediately just drawn in?
I did not know that it was infamous. And actually, when the big moment happens, I texted you immediately and you went, "Oh, LOL, yeah. Everyone knows about this moment." I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah,
sure. That's totally fine.
It's a big moment, and we're gonna dive in detail. But to get there, we open on a workout montage where it's just basically everybody's pumping iron in the gym, and we've got confessional style interviews, which I'm hit with the fact that this is 2001 because everyone's confessional style interview is sort of like a landline phone call home. And that's how you get their inner thoughts and feelings. And as we're jumping around the house, you can two main thoughts emerge. The first one is training to be a wrestler is tough as hell. And everybody's feeling very deflated and very sad. But the second idea that starts to emerge is everybody thinks that wife guy Jason, our super jacked bodybuilder guy, he loves this. He's thriving in training. So while everybody else is getting ground down to a fine powder, wife guy Jason is dumping that protein powder into a shake, and then he's hitting the damn gym again.
Yeah, it seems like he's just used to the grueling training of being a bodybuilder. So being a wrestler, yes, is different, but still he's used to intensity. So he is thriving. He's
thriving. He's having a great time. And then, yeah, multiple people are like, I'm so worried. Jason, he's just got the best physique and just the best attitude for training. And it cuts to him and he's just like, yeah, this is no big deal. So I think wife guy Jason, as much as it pains me to say, I think he's emerging as the front runner, Samee. The next day at the Tough Enough wrestling training facility called Trax, the producer of the show named Big has a special surprise for the cast. He tells everybody, sit and just stare straight forward. Don't look around. And everybody thinks that it's another weird Taz test. And so they're
100%.
They're all just sitting there being like, I just thought it was a don't move. And so you can really see people are so freaked out in their head. And then all of a sudden the door flies open and motherfucking Triple H walks in. And then, yeah, they cut to a sizzle reel where it's like, time to play the game. And you're just like seeing him pedigreeing people and hurting people. And then you just watch him. He walks out. He is in just crisp jeans, the tightest of jeans, the tightest of black t-shirts, all tucked in, of course, tightest of ponytails. So I don't know if you've ever seen Scared Straight, where they have at-risk youth get yelled at by prisoners, and it really has that vibe where he just walks around and he's looking at everybody. He's just like, what's everybody been up to? And everyone's so scared to talk, and they're like, we did mud wrestling. And he was like, mud wrestling? Huh. Never done that before. And I just want to call bullshit on that because, Samee, at In Your House, December 17th, 1995, Triple H fought Henry Godwinn in a hog pen match where he gets thrown in mud and covered in mud. So this son of a bitch has been mud wrestling. He just wanted to mess with these kids.
Get Hunter on the phone. We've gotta call his bullshit.
So he's walking around and he's kind of getting a feel. Everybody's nervous. So he's asking everybody about, they're taking bumps, they're training. And he's like, oh, is everybody hurt? Is everybody sore? And then he kind of zooms in on Daryl a little bit. And he's like, what about you in the back, big man? Taking bumps, does that hurt? And Daryl's like, yeah, I guess a little bit. And he goes, big fucking deal.
Oh, God.
Triple H is really just trying to impress upon these people that getting injured in wrestling is something that happens really frequently. Yeah. And it's a thing you're kind of just, at least in the WWE, especially at that time, you're just expected to push through. So I think he really came through to highlight that, underline that, really give people the gravity of the situation of like, if this is a thing you want to do, there are a lot of pretty harsh realities that you're going to have to be okay with if you want to keep doing it. And Triple H is super intense, dude. He is so intense during this.
I feel like the first test that he really put them through was having them endure his fucking hard gum chewing, his like bad attitude bullshit. Like, I love Triple H to death, but that gum chewing, he needs to fucking relax.
So he's lecturing people about the harsh realities. He pulls everybody into the ring and he wants them all to start demonstrating their bump, their flat back bumps, the things they've been working on for like a week. It really got me thinking, Samee, what would you do? Because when Triple H walks in, Josh, his face is on the ground, and then you can see Baseball Greg kind of light up. People are really excited to see Triple H, and I know you're a huge Triple H fan.
Sure.
What would you do if you had to demonstrate a skill you learned literally yesterday to not only a professional, but your idol? What would that do to you?
I would not be okay. I think me and Josh react to Triple H similarly. We're like, you're a huge fan and you look up to him and he's just like, he's your guy. But I feel like the difference between Josh and Greg is Greg's like, well, I belong here. He's very cool. I respect him a lot. We're going to stand shoulder to shoulder sometime. So I think that I would absolutely freak the fuck out. I would land on my head just like stuntwoman Victoria for sure.
What I love about it is when he's like, you take a bump. You really see people like, get in my proper form. And then 1, 2, 3, do it. And so, and I think in the middle of that, Triple H is like, all right, cool. What's the difference between that and this? And then he does a back bump too, but it's also just very...
Dude.
It's goofy out of context, where it's like, I get that he's giving a crisp back bump.
It's goofy in context.
So to me, it was just very much like, dude, you've been swinging your dick around for 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, but I bet none of you can do this. He just hits this very bad, funny back bump.
And he gets up so fast, and he's not out of breath. He's chewing his gum maybe a little bit harder. And it's like, what's the difference between that back bump and mine? And then somebody just mumbles, the intensity. It's like, guys.
I guess that's what I mean, where I think just everybody on Tough Enough, for whatever reason, really wanted these people to feel like being a wrestler sucks. And so they have just been grinding their morale. And so I think having Triple H come in and give everybody a wake-up call, I think that's a great call. But maybe do that week 8. Don't do that week 1. Don't make your first big like, hey, we want to get you guys inspired to do your training. Let's hear from Triple H. And he's like, you're going to be gone 200 days a year. Your family's going to grow up without you. You're never going to see your wife, and you're going to be injured all the time. And you just have to deal with it. All valid points, all valid lessons. Don't say that week 2. Come on.
I really feel like this whole entire show has been pretty poorly planned and just stitched together as they go.
I agree. So he's going down the line. He's making everybody do their flat back bump. And then he gets to bad boy Daryl, who does his flat back bump. And Samee, what happens when Daryl does his flat back bump?
Daryl does a not great back bump. He gets up and Triple H says, just for further notice, one of your nuts is hanging out of your shorts. You got a big hole. It's like, oh man.
That would kill me if my idol said that he saw my nuts and I didn't want him to. You know what I mean? If he accidentally saw my nuts on accident, I would simply, you would see me turn into an angel and fly away. I would be done.
Oh, an angel.
Yeah, I would turn into the angel I am, and I would fly into the sky, and you would never see me again, and neither would Triple H.
You or your nuts.
Yeah, me and my nuts, we'd go to heaven where we belong. So here's really the question I want to ask you, Samee. Were Daryl's nuts really hanging out? Was Triple H razzing him? Or were Daryl's nuts really out? What do you think? Where do you weigh in? Where do you fall on this?
All right, so I watched the video. I watched the episode 3 times. I think Triple H was just giving him a hard time.
I wonder if Triple H got fed ahead of time that they felt like Daryl was exhibiting some attitude, cockiness issues or something like that. Because it really felt like Triple H was going in on Daryl, and it seemed like he was picking on him. And he seemingly picked him out at random. And so it made me think, did the producers give him a heads up being like, hey, could you razz this guy for us, please?
Yeah, well, so Triple H, he has Al in his ear and he has fucking Taz in his ear. A couple days ago, Daryl finished a mile jog by kicking a rock. So I feel like if his nut was in fact neatly tucked where it needs to be.
If you were a professional, where a professional's nuts would be.
Where a professional's nuts should be. I do feel like they gave Triple H the go-ahead to unleash on Daryl.
At this point, I think he goes from being a hard ass to kind of starting to give a little bit of a wrestling workshop. So
sure,
they're working on how to sell getting punched in the face and making it look real. So he gets wife guy Jason to come up, and he gets baseball Greg to come up, and he's sort of demonstrating some punches. And he seems really impressed with Greg's techniques, less impressed with wife guy Jason's punching technique.
Eventually, he's like, I would actually tag you if we were in a match because wife guy Jason he wasn't selling it correctly. And, baseball Greg went above and beyond right before him and like actually hit the mat. He fell down, he got back up. And then to see wife guy Jason right after that and be stumbly and pretty bad at it, I would punch him. I would punch him too.
You'd go old school. You'd give him an old school receipt.
I'd give it to him, yeah.
Samee, like, are you toxic? Are you a 2001 toxic wrestler?
Who the hell wasn't? I'm mad at Taz because I am Taz.
Oh, shit. Oh, damn, dude.
Actually, no, that's gross. That's so gross.
So after Triple H is giving a little bit of this punching workshop, right? And again, it gets into a little bit of that goofiness, right? Because Triple H, legitimate tough guy, especially at this stage of time. But he's still being like, I'll tag you for real. Now sell my punch. And it's just the three of them kind of do-si-doing around the ring being like, I punch you and you get hurt and I get hurt too. And so there is an element of, you guys, yes, you're wrestling and it's very hard, but also it's a little bit silly. And let's admit that a little bit, just a little bit. Just for one day, can we say this is a little bit silly what we're doing? So I think he starts going and he starts talking to people about their motivations. Like, why'd you want to become a WWE wrestler? Like, are you a fan? He singles out Bobby Joe. He's like, were you a fan? And she goes, actually, no. What are you doing? What are you doing?
You can't lie to Triple H. She shouldn't even be on the show.
She definitely shouldn't be on the show. And but I mean, again, this dude has been so intense to you for like an hour, and then he's like, are you a fan of the sport that I do? And then he's like, no. It's like,
yeah,
fuck off then, get out of here.
yeah
When that happened, that was the one thing that made me be like, wait, maybe they aren't going hard enough on these kids. Like, what a crazy thing to say.
To Triple H. Yeah.
So I think from there, this is when Triple H gets real, and he's just like, okay, you guys think this is a joke. And I think the point he's driving at, right? He's super intense while he's doing it. He's borderline cutting a promo, like he's in character the whole time. And basically what he's trying to impress upon these people is, by doing this reality competition, you have skipped the line to do a thing that takes, people between 1 and 10 years to do. And the way you do that is you pay your dues, you earn your respect through colleagues, on the indies, doing whatever, in developmental, all of this stuff. So by doing this contest, you are not paying your dues. And so I think he really wants to impress upon them to have respect for what you're doing, having respect for your training, having respect for your trainers, having respect for your colleagues, doing all that stuff. All lessons that I think everybody should learn and everybody should apply. He's doing this and he really starts to single in, it looks like, on wife guy Jason when he starts talking about, do you have the heart to be away from your family 200 plus days a year, to watch your kids grow up without you most of the time, to like be super hurt, but you still got your responsibilities at home? Man, this part really made me laugh a little bit, because then Triple H just starts popping off on WCW superstar Goldberg, who in the very first episode, when they were doing the mud wrestling challenge, Taz came in and he saw that somebody had a Goldberg poster on their wall, and he tore it down and he ripped it in half. And then here we are, and Triple H is doing an extended monologue about how he thinks Goldberg is a total baby. It makes me wonder if somebody's favorite wrestler is a guy who's only been wrestling for 1 year and he can't wrestle a 3-minute match and he's getting hurt all the time and he's always changing the creative. Like, what does that say about the person whose hero that is? And it's just like, look, you guys, I know that WWF and WCW are in an intense ratings war, But the fact that you're taking time out of your MTV reality show to go in on WCW yet again is so funny to me, where it's like, he's not saying anything that isn't untrue. All the stuff he said about Goldberg, 100% true. Triple H isn't wrong, but I don't know why he went so hard on this dude who will not be affiliated with the WWE for another 2 years. So I don't know why this happened at all. It was so funny to me.
Well, maybe it's the whole like Goldberg took the fast track as well, and he wanted to just scare the contestants who are also on a fast track.
I think they really heavily imply that wife guy Jason is the one who had the Goldberg poster.
Sure.
And I guess it just made me wonder, what would you do if that was your Goldberg poster and Triple H really took time out of his wrestling workshop to be like, and whoever the fuck's Goldberg poster that is, fuck you. What would you do?
I think I would just take it. Like, I wouldn't like speak up or protect Goldberg in any way. Just be like, yeah, you're right, dog. Shit, my mistake. Shouldn't have shipped or traveled with this fucking stupid ass poster to Connecticut and hang it up only for Taz to rip it off the wall.
I think I would have way overcompensated, and I would have stepped out of the line and gotten on Triple H's side and be like, yeah, whoever's poster that is, shame on you, dudes. I'll find out who did it, Triple H.
I'll see. I'll launch an investigation for you,
I'll
dog.
catch him. Don't worry, dude. I got you. We're on the same team. So I guess just like overall, right? This Triple H segment is most of the episode.
It's 10 minutes long.
And so when he leaves the training, pretty much everybody is pretty understandably shaken up, except for like 3 people. So wife guy Jason looks haunted. He looks as though he saw a ghost. Baseball Greg, it really feels like this message has taken root. And he was like, fuck yeah, I want to do this even more. Oh, and then Nydia is basically doing exactly what Sammy's doing. And it's just like, oh my God, Triple H is so fucking hot. I cannot believe. I can't believe he just yelled at all of us. Yeah.
Thank you, Daddy.
And then Daryl is basically like, yeah, I mean, I get that he's a big deal, but I'm not going to like kiss his ass. And so as soon as he leaves the ring, he tries to cut the tension by getting Stuntwoman Victoria in a headlock. And everybody gets mad at Daryl as if to be like, dude, read the room, read the vibe. I also don't understand how that breaks the tension. And when he's trying to explain his thought process in the confessional, he's basically like, yeah, and I just like was trying to break the tension, and because Victoria keeps getting hit in the head, I put her in a headlock. You're like, why would you do that?
He literally said he knew her head was hurting. What the fuck are you doing, Daryl?
This is where I think the show really starts to underline that a lot of the contestants are super frustrated with Daryl. They think that he's tough to train with. He is kind of braggadocious. He's a little bit cocky, and
his nuts are out.
His nuts are always out when he's doing flat back bumps. So we get back, so I think everybody's shell shocked. Everybody's kind of mad at Daryl. All that stuff's starting to percolate. We get back to the mansion, and sparks start to fly between Chris with the chunky necklace and dancer Nydia. So we just start to get a little bit of like, ooh, they spend a lot of time together. They listen to a CD Walkman together,
So romantic.
Yeah, so romantic. Just the most romantic
thing. What is this,
thing.
Garden State?
And then before we can delve too deep into that, the producer of the show, Big, comes, and he wants to lighten the mood by giving everybody a night out on the town. And it just cuts to Bobby Joe in the middle of a club while just strobe lights are blasting down on her. And she's just, in a 2000 top, just dancing.
I loved this so much. So over the footage of her dancing, Bobby Joe has this voiceover of her relationship with dancing, and then she just starts listing out types of dance like Bubba does in Forrest Gump with shrimp dishes. So she's just listening like, oh, jazz, ballet, hip hop, modern. They cut away from her and then cut right back, and she's still listing out dance moves. And I'm pretty sure it's the same. She's not dancing any type of remarkably either.
It's as though she's in the opening of the movie Blade. So it's just like, strobe light, strobe light, strobe light. And then it just cuts to B-roll of her being like, samba, Macarena, tango. It's so stupid, dude.
Yeah, I can't. It was gorgeous, honestly.
Yeah, incredible. So we go from that. So it's like everybody's the blood's starting to heat up a little bit. So we go back to the mansion where we have Nydia and Chris taking a dip in the jacuzzi, and things start off flirty at first, and then the I'd say the mood changes because they're having kind of a flirty conversation. Nydia's playing with his feet, and then Chris is basically like, "Women used to walk all over me, but not anymore." And you're like, oh no, oh no.
Oh yeah, he got 2001 weird real quick.
Yeah, Necklace Chris is a bad guy. Oh no, oh no. And then I would say immediately the mood chills. So it's like whatever sparks were starting to fly, it's very much like, like we gotta get out of here.
Yeah, it sucks though, because like Nydia in a confessional, she says, Chris, he's just always trying to pretend to be someone that he's not, and I'm seeing right through that. And it's this classic thing that happens on all reality shows where the contestants talk like they've known the person for forever. And Nydia has known Chris for, I don't know, 6 days, and she's claiming that she knows his soul. That's ridiculous, dude.
More or less being like, I can fix him. It's like, Nydia, get out of there. No.
It is so bad to see that.
And then I would say things get even creepier when there's it cuts in voiceover of Chris being like, my emotions can change on a dime. And then I'll be honest with you, Samee, I don't really know what the fuck any of this was. This was insane.
Do we need to do a trigger warning?
Yeah, let's go ahead and give a trigger warning here just in case. Okay. Content warning, trigger warning.
Yeah, there's a situation with 2 people, Chris and Nydia, that involves some aggressive stuff with drowning or attempted drowning or like playful drowning. I don't know how to do a content warning.
I think it was enough to make both me and Samee independently uncomfortable when we were watching it. So I'd say maybe skip ahead a couple of minutes if you don't want to hear us talk about Chris being really creepy in the hot tub, I think. And so I think he starts kind of play wrestling with her a little bit, but it just is a little too forceful and it's a little too weird. And she's scared. She's very clearly scared. She's very clearly uncomfortable. And I think what was really starting to dawn on me is there's like a whole camera crew standing around this hot tub watching this happen. Nobody's doing anything. Nobody's saying anything. And it's very clearly, her, I think, doing everything in her power to keep the situation from escalating any further and being like, ha ha ha, let me go over here. Like, quit trying to
I'll dunk myself in the water.
Yeah, so what Chris is attempting to do is like put his hand on her head and then shove her under the jacuzzi water and is not taking no for an answer. And she keeps trying to get away, make distance, and he will not let it go. So she ends up trying to compromise by saying like, I'll put myself under the water. How about that? And then as soon as she goes under, he's trying to hold her head under the water. So like no part of it is like, this doesn't seem like he's trying to impress. It doesn't seem like he's trying to be flirty. I don't know what is happening here. I don't know why he's doing this.
We get a VO from him and he says that he's moody. It's like, that's not moody, dude. That's something just that needs to be unpacked and talked about, I think.
I agree. It was very strange. It was very bizarre. And then it cuts to Nydia in a confessional basically being like, yeah, he didn't respect anything that I said. He didn't take no for an answer. And so I'm staying the fuck away from Chris, basically. And then it just cuts to Chris later and it's more or less him being like, yeah, no, Nydia's acting kind of weird. No. And that's it. That's the resolution that happens in the episode. And I was struck by the 2001 of it all because I feel like if that were to have happened now, Chris probably would have been removed from the show or at the very least reprimanded on the show. It's
a very strange situation. Nydia seems to bounce back really quickly because we cut to her on the couch snuggling up with Ivy League Chris.
But Samee, we don't have time to unpack any of what just happened because wife guy Jason takes producer Big aside and reveals that he is not tough enough for life on the road. And he exits the competition. He quits.
He self-eliminates.
Do you have any reactions, thoughts about wife guy Jason leaving?
I feel like it was written in the stars that he was going to leave. He seemed pretty devoted to his family and his new girlfriend of 3 months. He was always calling them, mentioning them. Also, just seeing him flop so hard in front of Triple H kind of makes sense. Like, you're a big dude, you're athletic. You should have been I mean, this is much easier said than done, but you should have been, on the mat with Baseball Greg, like really feeling it, having a time. You have, 4 seconds with Triple H? You should have wowed him. So it made sense. It kind of showed that his commitment wasn't there. It's always a sad day for me when a beefcake walks away from a challenge, but
I went pretty hard on Wife Guy Jason last episode.
Yeah.
I went in on this guy
mm-hmm.
because I sensed that he had a weakness and he wasn't going to be able to get to the upper echelons of the WWE. I knew this. And what did you say to me, Sammy? You said I was a fool. Give Wife Guy Jason a chance. And I did. And what did he do? He quit because he didn't know that to be a wrestler, you have to be away from home. Kenneth, the evil custodian, he wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Kenneth, the evil custodian, he had what it takes. Wife Guy Jason, he's too busy. He's too busy worried about getting the right size steak. This guy should be a chef, a dietitian. He shouldn't be tough enough. Kenneth, the evil custodian, we should have had him. And I just want to say, I take no pleasure in being right, but it's cool when it works out.
From that smile you have, I can definitely tell that you hate being right.
Yeah, Sammy, I take no pleasure in the fact that Wife Guy Jason quit.
I'm so sorry. One of your nuts is on screen?
Oh my. The next day at the training facility tracks, Al Snow starts a little tradition where when someone exits the competition, he will take their chair and he will stack it on the wall as sort of a memorial of all the people who tried, but just were simply not tough enough. And before anybody can grieve for too long, mm-hmm. they all immediately start working out again because, Sammy, training never stops. And that is the end of episode 3 of Tough Enough. How did you feel? We watched a very infamous episode. A lot of things happened. How did you feel?
The Triple H segment was 14 out of the 23 minutes of this episode. And there were multiple infamous points. I think it was the nuts and then the speech, right?
Yeah, the nuts and the speech. Nobody ever talks about the hot tub, and I feel like we should all be talking about the hot tub.
I think we should keep it in the conversation. We should start the discourse now about it. No, we shouldn't. Yeah, I feel excited for what's to come. How about you?
Because this is the first season, they're ironing a lot of stuff out. But I think the main thing that was really dawning on me is just how hard they're going on these kids for, I would honestly say, borderline no reason. Where I get what they're trying to do, and they're really trying to impress upon these people that to be a wrestler is a very tough thing, and that I appreciate. But at the same time, you created a contest where you were going to pick people who didn't have training, and you were going to train them to be a wrestler. I think part of that is inspiring them. And so it seems like every single thing we've done in these first 3 episodes has been to be like, how can we absolutely run this like a military boot camp and just grind people down? And I think that's certainly one way to do it. That's definitely how the WWE operated for a very long time. So I'm not surprised that that's how they train people on a reality show. But I also think that I just don't think it works. I don't think that's a good thing to do. And so I just was like, guys, can we lighten up a little bit on these kids? Like, can we have them make costumes or do something fun? Like, can we do anything instead of yell at them and lecture them about how they're probably going to retire early and they should be grateful to get hurt? Like, can we relax, guys? Can we do that, please?
It's a super weird vibe, and I don't know if the appetite in the early 2000s was for this type of show, and they were just going with the flow. But it's very strange. Like this show that they made, or the first season of the show, was like really just not great. Bad vibes.
Morale-wise, not good.
But maybe morale lifts in episode 4. It's titled The Billionaire Princess. Michael, do you have any alternative titles for this episode after watching it?
Maybe everybody bullies the shit out of Daryl for 20 minutes.
23 minutes.
You're right. Sorry, that there was an extra 3 minutes of exclusive footage where they bullied Daryl some more.
So it seems like you're kind of turning a corner on Daryl in this episode.
I think so. I think for me, and maybe it's just the fact that I watch all this stuff in succession, where I think, is he kind of annoying? Yeah, absolutely. but I don't think he's so annoying, or at least they're not showing clips of him being so annoying that it warrants how ostracized he is from the group. Like, I could get him being like, yeah, he's like not my favorite person to hang out with, but everybody is like, fuck Daryl. I cannot fucking stand this guy. And I was just like, I have not seen evidence of him doing something that bad yet. And maybe I'm wrong. What, did you see something I didn't see?
No, I think that he is pretty annoying. His personality is quite grating, or at least what we've seen. But, I do get a little nervous about some of the stuff being just actual microaggressions. But yeah, I don't know. He's not my type of guy.
Sure. And I will also be honest with you. I think personality-wise, Daryl really doesn't make it easy on himself at all. So
no,
I can understand being frustrated. I would be frustrated with him, but people really, I personally felt this episode took it a little too far. But Samee, let's find out who's right by breaking down the episode.
Let's go. So this episode starts out with the contestants heading over to tracks. Producer Big takes only stuntwoman Victoria in his Humvee to ask her about her feelings about Jason leaving. She reveals that she's not sure she actually wants this.
It was a weird thing that everybody is, I mean, again, I guess they do feel safe to express themselves, but he's just like, yeah, so how do you feel, Victoria? She's like, I feel like I don't want to be a wrestler. Kind of the most horrifying thing you want to hear as a producer.
Yeah, 100%. You're like, oh, I have to scramble now because you're not tough enough. Great,
yeah.
cool.
So Victoria's gonna quit. like what a
honestly, I think the behind the scenes footage of Tough Enough and all the producers scrambling for like, oh, we have to tell Triple H to bully Daryl. Oh, the wife guy Jason leaves and all this stuff. I would love to see that footage.
Me too. I would love to see them trying to make this reality show and being like, what do you mean Australian Stacey's back in Australia? We need her.
Back at tracks, Al makes an announcement that in 24 hours, the first person will be cut.
Where we're at in the show so far, who do you think are prime candidates to be on that chopping block?
I would say Bobby Joe.
Sure.
Or Victoria.
I would say Victoria. I would also say I feel like Daryl's probably not safe either, because it does seem like not only are his colleagues kind of riding him, it also feels like the trainers are kind of riding him a little bit too. So I could see him being a little bit on the border, on the bubble too.
So training on that day was more flat back bumps, and we see confessionals from both Greg and Josh being too scared to watch Victoria because she just continues to land poorly. She is clearly not getting the training at all. They also work on bringing someone over in a headlock. So they have somebody in a headlock and they toss them over?
It's like a over. You do a takedown.
There you go. This way,
headlock takedowns, out. Yeah. And then, again, that incorporates another flat back bump. So
sure,
you can see why this is the building block of wrestling training and why you need to be able to do it like Triple H.
Intensity. So there is a charming moment between Al and Josh where Al is still in Josh's headlock and he's looking up and he's talking to Josh about all of the mistakes that he made. And he said, "You have to wait for me to take the bump and then you come down with me. Otherwise, I'll bite your nipple off and spit it in your face." And this is just a random reminder that the show was made in 2001. For the next sequence, Al elects Daryl to be his partner. Yeah. So we eventually see Al's head being scissored in Daryl's legs, and there's apparently an odor to his pants, and Al confronts him about it. We kind of get them face to face, and Al's like, "You've got to start washing this pants. Do your shorts smell this way?" And Daryl's like, "No, not at all. Go change, no problem." So Daryl is sent away to the locker room to change into shorts because the stench of his pants is actually killing Al. And apparently he walks away with an attitude because he's grumbling, and Al hears it, and Al calls him back over and scolds Daryl like a child.
This is, I don't know, this one I didn't mind as much because this is your trainer. And so I do think this is a relationship built on respect. And I do think that getting singled out for being smelly, that's a tough look, dude. And if I were in wrestling school,
sure,
and the rumor got out that the headmaster is the smelliest kid in class, I would quit. I would truly, he would be like, if Al Snow took me aside while I was doing wrestling training, is like, Michael, you need to start wrestling your gym shorts. I'd be like, oh, I quit. I'm so embarrassed I quit. I would quit wrestling training. I would burn every pair of pants that I owned. And then I would be a guy who exclusively wore kilts. And I would never touch pants ever again.
I'm just like, how do you not change out your sweaty clothes? Like, you're working hard every day.
Here's the thing, and this, I know this is kind of an ongoing debate for us, but like maybe if the Tough Enough Mansion was a little bit better, they'd have better laundry facilities, and maybe that's the reason why Daryl's clothes weren't up to par, is because the mansion was so drab, dude.
Okay, so both the boys and the girls speak out about Daryl in their separate confessionals and conversations with one another. Nobody likes Daryl at all. Later at the gym, Daryl starts acting up and shadowboxing, while Chunky Necklace attempted murderer Chris judges Daryl's character. Chris, not on my watch, boy.
Yeah, don't you? Who are you to throw stones? You fucking murderer! Like, get out of here, dude.
Fucking crazy. How would you handle a Daryl type person if you were on the show, do you think?
I honestly think that me and Daryl would probably get along, but he wouldn't be my favorite person to hang out with in the house. But I think I probably would end up hanging out with him the most because I would feel bad that nobody else would want to talk to him or hang out with him. I've seen him be annoying, but I haven't seen him do something so bad that it makes him publicly ostracized from the rest of the group. And everybody is making it sound like he's the one who tried to murder somebody in the hot tub like Chris. But Chris is a murderer and they still want to hang out with him. Well, Daryl, talks about not being able to play high school football anymore. And everyone's like, I need this guy to shut the fuck up. Like, it's annoying, but it's not that annoying to me.
So at the house, Victoria, Bobby Joe, and Paulina commiserate about how much training sucks and hurts. And then back at tracks later, we see the girls look at each other knowingly. And eventually we see them approach producer Big. And Victoria starts the conversation with, I don't want to be a wrestler. And then once that line of communication is open,
Bobby Joe is basically like, yeah, ditto. like,
I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here.
It's the most... these pissed me off. These quits pissed me off so much.
Yeah, but I do think that Bobby Joe didn't want to be there. Well, she just shouldn't have been on the show. And Victoria, you said you weren't a quitter, and then the next day you quit. I think you're a quitter, dog.
I think the reason why these piss me off the most, right, is I'm thinking back to the casting special. I'm thinking back to Australian Stacey, who sold her car and flew to America to audition, who did great, who was so good and so fun. And I was like, I know Australian Stacey would be tough enough. And instead, we went with Bobby Joe, who I just fucking could feel was gonna quit, and then decides to like piggyback onto Victoria's quit. And so we had like a double quit right in a row. And so it just made me angry because it broke my heart about Australian Stacey all over again. And I knew that Australian Stacey was at least tougher than this.
I would love to cut to Bobby Joe dancing right now. Samba, ballroom, tap dancing. That's what she wants to do. She just wants to dance. Oh, you know what we didn't mention is that during that club scene, her voiceover, she says, I love having big boobs.
Oh, right there.
Bobby Joe, there's another show for you. I'm sorry that you're leaving Tough Enough, but I'm happy that you left. After Bobby Joe and Victoria quit, Big hops on the phone and he's like, we lost 2 wrestlers?
It really felt like we were
contestants.
It really felt like we were in Bad Boys, where it's like shit just got real. Where he's just like,
or like Secret Service just tapping their ear, like they're on the move. They're gone.
We lost Bobby Joe and Victoria. What shall we do? it's so intense.
Yeah, that's a very strange cutaway to include in the show. And all I really want to know is who the frick was on the other line.
Who do you think should have been on the other line? Who do you think they were calling?
Taz.
Me too. My thought was it was Taz out of character in his hotel room being like, oh man.
Shucks. I guess he's pulling on his boots. I'm like, I'll be there in a second.
Let me just make sure my stubble mohawk is just so.
So these quits of Bobby Joe and Victoria kind of rattle Paulina, and she's in a confessional, and she's like, well, what makes me think that I can hack it if they can't hack it? And it's
Can
like,
I be honest with you, Samee?
Yeah.
It seems like everything rattles tall Paulina. It really seems like she was just like, when wife guy Jason quit, should I quit too? And it's just sort of like, look, Paulina, you got to believe in yourself, dude. You have to believe in yourself to do this.
Look, I can never assume that I will ever know what it's like to be a tall person. But it seems like she has spent her whole entire life trying to take up as small amount of space as possible. So I feel like all of her confessionals are like, oh well, I don't need to be here. I shouldn't be here. I can't be here. Like, those girls aren't here, then I shouldn't be here. I can't be here. So,
and what I'm trying to say is, Paulina, you deserve to take up 6 foot 3 inches of space wherever you go.
Hell yeah, Paulina, let's go.
Yeah, come on, Paulina. We believe in you.
We do.
Okay, so after this sort of grueling day of training where we just get a double dose of quitting, morale at the house is low. Everybody is so bummed out, and everyone's calling home, and you can just hear how sad and full of doubt everybody is. They're just like, training's hard, I don't know. And then Daryl goes to his room, takes off his pants, and bends over. So just we see him have an extended prayer / heart to heart with God. While his
is that what that was?
While his butt is just angled at the security camera in his room and just being like, God, don't fail me. Like, if you want me to win, I shall win. But if it is your win, and it's just like, but while that's happening, we're just seeing Daryl's big ass just in the camera frame the whole time. And you're just like, you guys, why did you do this to Daryl?
Yeah,
he's already having
unnecessary.
Such a tough time. He's tucking himself into bed. Come on. Like, we didn't need to do that. So while that's happening, while Daryl is just, you know, he goes to sleep. We then cut to the other side of the house where we've got Josh and Maven. They're roughhousing in Taylor's room, who, again, this is her one pop-in of the episode, being like, whoa, you guys. And then, like, they're wrestling in a room. Their wrestling spills out into the hallway, and then while that's happening, Samee, what happens while these boys take their eyes off of Taylor's room?
We quick cut to a scary-looking fire in the girls' room. Everyone panics, and Shadrick just stands back and yells, "Just stop, drop, and roll, goddammit!" Even though nobody was on fire.
It was a huge fire on the bed.
Yeah, it got pretty scary looking, and like I feel like everybody was being too casual about it.
Everybody but Shadrick. Shadrick was panicking for everybody. Shadrick was like, stop, drop, and roll the bed. Like, the pillows? What are we talking about, Shadrick?
Yeah, but Nydia throws water on it, and it goes away, and then Taylor walks back in the room, and she's like, what happened? There's a fire? Like, it was just very silly. And the next day in the car, it's Daryl, Paulina, and I think Shadrick.
And Nydia's there too.
And Nydia. And Daryl learns about the fire, and personally to me, I think he has the most annoying reaction to it, both verbally and emotionally. I'm going to play the audio from that moment right now.
That fire was crazy. Yeah. That's pretty scary, dude.
Fire? What happened?
There was a fire last night. We had a fire.
Oh, I was asleep. What happened?
The bed was on fire.
Whose bed?
Taylor's bed.
What happened? Well, I guess there was like a fire in the house the other day, and I was asleep. And I didn't know anything about the fire until the next day.
Stop, drop, and roll.
You know, I mean, I just, feel a little bit, kind of left out a little bit from some of the stuff. But, it's no big deal. I think it just might be jealousy or stuff. All right, guys.
Did that not annoy you as much as it annoyed me?
Dude, I had a completely different reaction to this. So what I would love the most, you give me yours, and then I'll give you mine.
He starts asking one question over and over again, instead of being clear about what he wants. So just, what happened? What happened? What happened? Instead of like, there was a fire? and then, I mean, you brought this to my attention that, like, clearly Paulina was icing him out a little bit, trying to give him the smallest amount of detail possible.
Mm-hmm.
But for him to be cut to in a confessional and be a little bit bummed out that he missed out on a fire,
mm-hmm.
and that he's jealous about it.
Mm-hmm.
No, man.
He's not jealous about the fire. He's not asking the same question over and over to be annoying. What Daryl's trying to do is connect with his teammates, and he's being rebuffed. They're rebuffing him in the car. And so he's asking, there was a fire, what happened? And then Paulina goes, oh yeah, there was a fire. So he's asking again, clearly being like, please include me. Tell me the story. Give me the context. Whose room was it in, right? He was like, give me context. I want to know. Should I be concerned about what's going on? And then Paulina continues to not give him any information. And then it cuts to Nydia saying, stop, drop, and roll, which is very clearly an inside joke that develops. So now they're like boxing him out of the conversation even further. Then it cuts to a confessional where he gets to express how he feels. And what he's saying is he didn't feel included because a big thing happened that affected the entire mansion. They all had a story. They all were there except for him. But he's so sad because he was asleep and he missed it. He doesn't feel like he's a part of the group. His conclusion is that the way I took it is his conclusion is that they're jealous of him, which bizarre conclusion to get to. I will admit it. That's where I'm like, Daryl, I was with you.
On him, yeah.
I was on your side for 90% of this, and then that last 10%, you're like, I don't know, maybe it's like jealousy or something. You're just like, dude, no, dude.
See, either way, though, whether you're somebody who thinks like me or somebody who thinks like you, at the end of that, we're both slapping our foreheads like, Daryl.
But again, this is why I think I could fit in with the people like Daryl. Like, I would be the person who would be like, oh, Daryl, you're not going to believe this. So like after you went to bed, like we were up, and then like I would give him the whole story and then he'd be like, oh, that's crazy. Because that's all he wants. He just wants to hear the story and then go, whoa.
Sure. That's fair.
We could give Daryl that. And I actually, I'll be honest, dude, I thought it reflected pretty poorly on tall Paulina. I was just like, oh, she's not sure if she can do this, but she knows she can bully the shit out of Daryl. Not cool.
So back at tracks, Al announces that there won't be a cut because Victoria and Bobby Joe left, but he does do the traditional thing of removing the two chairs. And charming, gentle Taz shows up and he lays it down for the gang. He's like, oh, well, we just weeded out the quitters and it's go time now. And bip, 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 bip. And they didn't belong here anyway. It's like, okay, cool, Taz.
I think he was basically like, yeah, you could be PC and say that, you know, they found out this wasn't right for them. But we just got rid of the crap on our team. And just like, Taz, chill, dude.
So for training today, Al decides to drill the contestants by sitting on them and riding them, which before we got the footage of what was actually happening, I thought he was gonna literally have them be on all fours and he sits on them like we do with like kids.
Horsey style. Yeah, he was gonna ride them like a horsey. I also thought that was gonna happen. I was just like, what are we doing?
Like, bro,
we have been abusing these kids for a week and a half. Like, are we really going to ride them like a horse? That's insane.
Oh, and a random reminder that this was filmed in the year 2001.
Yeah, we're going to do Succession for real.
But this drill actually looks a little bit more like a traditional wrestling thing where he's just trying to, I think, flip them over, basically.
I think it's basically he's going to be applying pressure and then you need to escape. And so it's up to you to sort of wiggle and maneuver around, but he's trying to find every in that he can to keep himself like on you, and you're supposed to break out.
Right.
And so the majority of the class not able to do it.
Nope. And only Baseball Greg kind of beats the challenge, and they end in a sweet little hug.
Yeah, it was a really tender embrace of just, it really was, I'm so proud of you, Baseball Greg. You escaped me.
Yeah. He was like, thank God for you. So,
and honestly, at that point, I've been pretty high on Baseball Greg these past two episodes, and so
I love him.
Watching him get that Al Snow hug, I was just like, It's my boy, dude. That's Baseball Greg. Baseball Greg knows what's up.
I love Baseball Greg. Later at the house, Stephanie McMahon shows up in her limo and takes the girls out for a Sex in the City outing. They talk about outfits and how tough it is to keep character on the show because everyone is super funny, especially Triple H. We also learned that Trish Stratus was supposed to come on this visit as well, but she never showed up, much to the disappointment of all of the men in the house. And so, Michael, I want to ask you, would you no-show an appearance on a reality TV show?
I think if I were Trish Stratus, I would do literally whatever I want.
Fair. As their date continues, Stephanie talks about how the women's locker room is pretty good and everybody laughs as hard as they work. The lunch montage is complete with Sex in the City piano plinking, literally. Like
they really were like, it really was like, we're straight up doing an episode of Sex in the City right now, except, so it's like, instead of like witticisms, my sex life, making it in the big city, it just cuts to Nydia being like, Stephanie, dude, your boobs are huge. And it's like, not exactly the Sex in the City moment we were hoping for.
I think she's the Samantha of the group.
Oh my God, dude. And there's literally a big on Tough Enough.
Oh my God.
Oh no.
Back at the house, Daryl continues to put everyone off with his delusional attitude. He mentions that he once signed autographs in a grocery store even. Ivy League, Chris, Greg, Maven, and Daryl try to hash out their beef because they make it pretty obvious that they have a problem with Daryl. And, I do appreciate that Daryl stepped up and was like, okay, let's figure this out.
He's sort of hanging with the boys and he sees Ivy League Chris and he's basically like, I feel like you and me, where there's always some tension here. Like, let's go in a room and hash it out. I honestly think Ivy League Chris is probably the number one person I would want to kick off that conversation because I think he would be very diplomatic and very
100%.
Like, I want the house to be cohesive.
Ivy League Chris is basically like, hey, you run your mouth at the gym, but you're really not doing that much work. I'd appreciate it if you weren't peacocking as much in the gym. And Baseball Greg tells Daryl that, he demands respect, but he doesn't show respect to anyone else. And that doesn't quite vibe really well. And Maven, he's leaning on the twin bed with his legs as far apart as possible.
Just basically doing the splits while they're having this really intense conversation. You see Maven flexing. It's
just he's like in the shape of a capital A and he's like, well, I don't have a problem with you, and he's like eating the floppiest white bread sandwich. I'm like, Maven, you got a problem with
that.
Yeah,
are you eating a bread sandwich and being like, I just wanted to be in the room, but I don't have a problem with you?
So after the boys talk, Daryl's takeaway is that he won't talk about the great things he's done in his life so much. Please.
So much.
Please, Daryl, please. Michael, please.
You got to start somewhere. So it's for him to brag less. That's better than bragging all the time, I guess.
Okay, sure.
But that was another one of those things where it's like, he started off the conversation and being like, cool, I feel like there's some tension in the house. And before it boils over and people start getting really upset, let's talk it out and let me absorb the criticisms and make some changes. And then it gets to the end and you're like, oh, wow, that's actually like really mature and really smart. He's like, cool. So what I learned is I won't talk about the great things I've done so much. And you're just like, Daryl.
I mean, the beginning of the scene, he's in the middle of a conversation talking about how he's still not okay with the thought that he'll never play college football again. Like, dude, you're 27. Of course you're not. What?
That also was so funny. That this whole confrontation kicks off with Daryl at dinner. He's just, elbows on the table being like, I'll never play football again. And it's like, dude, what the fuck are you talking? And then it cuts to Josh, who is so over it. He's like, yeah, I need him to shut up about football.
It's like, okay, how much of that is because of your actual direct interactions with Daryl, or how much of that is like some preconceived stuff too? It makes me uncomfortable to not like Daryl so much, but also from what we see, I'm not going to mesh with him. You know what I mean?
I don't think I would mesh with him either. I think he's annoying, but I don't think he's as In the footage they showed us, I don't think he's as bad as the reactions are eliciting. But maybe there's a bunch of other stuff he's doing that got cut out, and he's hella annoying. I don't know. But also, he makes it borderline impossible every single time. He really makes it hard for himself.
All right, so back at Tracks, there's a huge announcement. Al has a match at SmackDown, and everybody gets to fucking go.
But at this point, Al Snow was just like, but here's the thing. You're all going to be there. You're going to be there front row, but like everybody be professionals, no yelling and screaming. And this is where something clicked in my head where I was like, I feel like this would be the hardest part of Tough Enough for you personally, Samee, because you love to get hype when you go to live wrestling shows.
Yeah.
So to have your mentor specifically be like, you can go to the show, don't get hyped, dude.
Yeah. No, I blew my voice out yesterday at a basketball game. Like, I will never not get hype.
Yeah, you got to get hype. But that was the one thing when Al was just like, you can go to the show, but don't get hype. I was like, ooh, it would cut to Samee being like, no, I'm going to get hype. I'm going to do that.
Dude, Al, respectfully, go fuck yourself.
Yeah. You may be my teacher, but I'm going to get hyped, dude.
Suck it.
And then it cuts to all of them, watching the episode of SmackDown. And Samee, I spent an embarrassingly long time trying to find the specific episode of SmackDown they were on. I could not find definitive proof, but I found a couple of things that led me to believe that it was the March 8th, 2001 episode of SmackDown. Unfortunately, if that's the episode I'm thinking of, they saw their man, Al Snow, lose.
With the footage that they showed, it does show Al look kind of upset. If any listeners want to send us an email or DM us on any social platform to tell us if you know specifically which episode that is, we are at Wrestling Academy a pod.
Because I truly watched 10 episodes of SmackDown trying to find it. I could not find it, and I was getting really frustrated. So if you know, please let us know, because I would love to solve this little mystery for myself. But I think seeing the show, being there in that live energy, everybody is buzzing after this. And this was, I think, the hanging out, the Sex and the City lunch with Stephanie McMahon. I was like, this is the levity that these kids need to show them that, like, yes, we're working hard to have fun and to do this is the good stuff too. And so I think you sort of front load it with that. And then you start being like, look, I know you guys are having fun, but we're here to work. This is real. And then, you know what I mean? I think that's the better way to do it. So I think by the time everybody was like having a great time and hooting and hollering and getting to see what they're working towards, that was the first time I was just like, oh my God, finally the show isn't so morose. Like, we're having a little bit of fun. Thank God.
It does seem like everyone went home after the show and felt like this could possibly be worth it. And I am actually tough enough to get to this spot.
That is the end of episode 4. Who's standing out to you right now? Anybody standing out positively, negatively, otherwise?
Always Baseball Greg. I roll pretty hard for him. I'm holding out for Tall Paulina to have a moment where she turns a corner and she believes in herself, and she's also not hurting as much, because it just feels like she's in an immense amount of pain. And this is going to come out of left field, but I'm rooting for Taylor to have 2 to 3 more scenes in episodes 5 and 6.
I was going to say something very similar where I was like, honestly, I think the main thing that I want is for Taylor to do anything. That's kind of what I'm rooting for the most. I would love for her to have more than one sentence an episode. Show her doing an exercise. Show her working out. Show her doing anything, saying anything, feeling anything.
Her candle was a bigger character than herself in this episode.
Will I root for her to win? I don't know. I won't know until I see her do anything at all. So that's my main dream, is I'm rooting for Baseball Greg, rooting for Nydia, and I'm rooting for Taylor to do anything. But that is our episode 3 and 4 reaction. We just want to thank you for listening to Wrestling Academy, which is hosted, produced, and edited by me, Michael Classic, and you, Samee Junio. You can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Wrestling Academy Pod, or you can send us an email at wrestlingacademypod@gmail.com.
Follow, rate, and leave a positive review wherever you get your podcast, but check out Spotify, where we have Q&As or polls every episode. And please, if you have any information on Ween Kid, go to our website, Wrestling Academy University to send in an anonymous tip or call the Ween Kid tip line and leave us a voicemail at 708-669-4512. Join us back here next week where we cover episodes 5 and 6 of season 1 of Tough Enough.
Taylor, do something. We're begging you. Please.
Oh, Taylor, we're rooting for you. Please.